Growing up, I was never truly aware of how many people had the everyday struggle of getting food due to their lack of funds. When I thought of people struggling with obtaining food, I always thought of those from different countries. To be honest, I just assumed that America had different resources put in place for the citizens to gain food. I never understood the lack of free organizations here that were not accessible for those in need, especially here in Northwest Arkansas. After gaining knowledge of this problem, it opened my eyes and made me realize the lack of accessible food for free food organizations that are available to those in need. I have become passionate about this problem because after volunteering at LifeSource over the last few months and learning about this organization and knowing that this is one of the few places here in Northwest Arkansas that offers free food and groceries to families in need. You will want to listen to this speech today because I'm pretty sure that you are aware of the pandemic that is currently going on. But have you noticed how beneficial it has been towards those who can't afford food and how now it has become more accessible for them to get food than it was before this crisis? I will discuss the effects of the current pandemic, the increasing numbers of low-income families in the area, and the lack of community involvement in donating free food organizations in Northwest Arkansas. COVID-19 has now become a part of our everyday normality and has had a major influence of making food accessible to those who can't afford it. The effects of the current pandemic has brought in things like government assistance and food assistance availability and food security. According to the CSIS, the food programs that has already been in place has now dropped their beneficial requirements for receiving benefits. So whereas if you were receiving food stamps or if you were receiving SNAP, you would have to put in a certain number of hours you were working, or you would have to show proof of your income. You do not have to do that due to the current pandemic. The government is now sending out stimulus checks that is going to help Americans through this crisis. Also, there is food security because public schools have now offered to continue to service kids their meals that they depend on at the schools. According to NorthwestArkansasOnline.com, it has allowed them to go to the Department of Education and to get this approved. Although it is an unpredictable time for many, in some ways it has been good for others. Due to the accessible food programs that are put in place, but after this crisis, what will these families do? Due to the increasing number of low-income families, they can't afford food, they can't afford rent. So after this crisis, what will these families return to? Because according to the U.S. today, 7.4 million jobs could be affected due to the coronavirus. There are many factors that play into the outcome of low-income families, but there are many resources that could become available to them if we take in consideration due to the coronavirus. Lack of community involvement in donating to free food organizations has been a tremendous problem. Many people do not take the time out to go to these different organizations and help sort food for these people. They don't go to these organizations and donate food for these people. They just, in some way, forget about these Americans that are struggling. Some free food organizations in Northwest Arkansas is LifeSource and the Salvation Army. LifeSource is known for its outstanding program for allowing families to come in, no matter the size, and to get things like protein, to get things like vegetables, to get things like carbs. It's to help families that can't afford groceries like other families. Another one is the Salvation Army. They do a lot of feeding the community, feeding the homeless, and making sure that those with a lot of family members, and even those that don't have a lot of family members that may have a low income, they make sure that these families do have food in some form of way. Tyson's Food is one of the biggest donating companies in the world. According to ProQuest, the company's contributes consists of hunger relief grants to nonprofit organizations and more than 5 pounds of protein donated to food banks. So Tyson does a lot of different donating to these different companies and allowing them to feed the low-income families. Also, they don't receive enough donations. They don't have people that are willing to donate money, or it's not about the money or the food for these different people. They just have no way of keeping it up without help from the community. As you can see, there are many factors that come into the light when trying to provide resources such as free food to those in need. Today, I brought to light the effects of the current pandemic, the increasing numbers of low-income families in the area, and the lack of community involvement to donating free food organizations in Northwest Arkansas. It is with great importance that we as a community are aware of the outstanding problem, that we focus on those in need of free food. Knowing the currency of this situation allows us to take in consideration not only those in other countries, but right here in America.